Let's continue then to shine the spotlight on the state of social cohesion in the country. Recently, as you've heard, President Donald Trump signed an executive order halting all aid to South Africa, citing claims of race-based discrimination against Afrikaners with regard to the Expropriation Act. Dr. Paul Kariuki, Executive Director, Democracy Development Program, joins us now. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Kariuki. Now, notwithstanding, of course, the business uncertainty, as we've just heard in that previous clip, the past few weeks have exposed just how divided a country we are in South Africa. There's no doubt that the country is yet to emerge as a socially cohesive nation. But what do you make of what we've been seeing in recent weeks in the country?
Thank you so much, Unati, for having me on the show, and good afternoon to your viewers. I think what we've just seen is what has been always playing around in our country, to the extent that we've not been able to address all the issues that really do separate us as a people and as a nation, that really continually affect our identity as a nation and as individuals. And so the pronouncements that we've had lately continue to extend that social fissure, if I put that way, that we have still more work to be done as a people and as a nation towards social cohesion in a way that really does reinforce our national identity, and we do not see ourselves across the divides that have really kept us apart from each other.
And I mean, let's look at how policies such as policies that speak to our land reform, the Expropriation Act now, which is something that we've been reporting as meeting the constitutional need for redress of past injustices. This is still somehow misunderstood, 31 years into democracy. What then do you think is at the center of this?
Well, I think, to the best of my knowledge, I would think that we haven't had sufficient public education around the act itself. And so the misconception partly is because of that lack of knowledge of what really it entails and how long it has been in existence. And now, what is the intent of government at this point in time, which to most of citizens, it seems like it's a little bit too late in the day. But government has to do what it has to do to address those injustices, because unless these issues are addressed, our social cohesion project will never be achieved. It's an important aspect that really frames who we are as South Africans, and if this is left unaddressed, it will just continue to widen the gap between those who have access to the means of land and means of production, and to those who yearn to have such means of production. And over 30 years later into our democracy, we are running short of reasons and excuses, so to speak. And so I think in the best interest of the government is trying to fast track a process such as this one to ensure that it really meets the constitutional aspirations that most citizens really signed up for in 1994, and that it remained elusive for more than 3 decades now.
Just as we speak, we heard, of course, that the Democratic Alliance has filed papers in the Western Cape High Court to challenge the recently passed Expropriation Act. They believe it is unconstitutional and it needs to be nullified in its entirety. I mean, when we then start talking about addressing social cohesion, where do we begin in a society like ours, highly diverse, with high unemployment and gross economic inequalities? Even in our schools, we see how issues of racism are still very much alive in 2025.
That is one of our biggest challenges that now we are confronting as a country, not only even now as a government and political parties, because the more these issues have been left unaddressed for so long, they have developed other issues that are, even affecting the implementation of these decisions that need to be made by government on behalf of its citizenry, but also on all other stakeholders who, some, unfortunately, are perpetuating a narrative that keeps on dividing the nation even at most. And because these matters have been taken to the courts, I know the courts will do their very level best to ensure that the nation understands where the constitutionality of the bill. But that having said, we also think it's important that all the parties, all the stakeholders involved in this process of ensuring that our nation remains one, need to take responsibility for their individual failures. For political parties, it's not excusable when they have not done their bit, first of all, to educate their party members, who some of them actually take these things out of context because of lack of knowledge. Some parties have not done that homework yet. And for our government, it's important that the matters of land reform and expropriation are continuously educating to the public, because the government has a primary role in ensuring that citizens understand its program, its intent, its development agenda, and even its intention to continuously redress the injustices of the past, to show that there is a commitment to that our nation needs to be cohesive and not continuously divided. When it comes to service delivery, especially to issues relating to education, the government has done some work. It cannot be, paintbrushed that there is no work has been done. Perhaps the issue is not sufficient has been done to address the aspiration and the needs across our country, because they vary depending on our geography, depending on our demographics and things like that. But there has been work to be done, and I think the yearning among the citizenry is to see that work being fast-tracked to close the gaps and to ensure that there is some level of equality across the country in terms of access to good education. Infrastructure for education is also great. There is teachers deployed in every part of our country. Their teachers' well-being is also looked after, so that there is no, the sense that some educators in certain quarters seem to be taken care of compared to those who are, for example, working in the public school. So all these kind of factors and variables need to be taken in consideration, and the state has the primary duty of fast-tracking the reduction of those kind of gaps, so that the citizenry can be settled in their hearts that there is a movement towards equalizing our society. If these things are not given priority that they require now, with a serious sense of urgency, we will continue to talking about these issues even in the next 3 decades, because there is no traction in eliminating the gaps that keep us divided.
I definitely agree with you. I mean, I think we're jumping too quickly to reach the socially cohesive nation when there's just so many glaring gaps and a lot of work, as you say, Doctor, that still need to be done to understand the importance of a redress. But Dr. Paul Kariuki, thank you so much for your time.